Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to City Hall. Pleasure to see all of you here. We're going to try to make this as exciting as possible for everyone so that you enjoy your time here at City Hall. And so we'll get started. So roll call. All members of council are present and accounted for. And we'll move to item number 2, Territorial Land Acknowledgement, Statement and Moment of a Reflection. Conseiller Lalonde.
Nous reconnaissons que nous sommes sur le territoire non cédé des Anishinaabe et les terres traditionnelles des peuples Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat et Canyon-Kahaka. Nous reconnaissons notre obligation commune de respecter, d'honorer et de préserver ces terres et les ressources naturelles qu'elles contiennent.
Merci, conseiller. Whereas Canada is founded upon the principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law, let us take a moment of personal reflection. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us commend, car ton bras s'est porté les pères, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Alors, merci. On tombe à l'item 4, adjonction, effacement et modification. So, I'll start with requesting that we separate item 11C. That's the sign bylaw amendment for election signs, report PIC 2026-06A, and treat it separately, Madame Camille Laflamme. That's good. Then I would like to add in 18B for Councillor Armstrong, Earth Day, and 18C for Councillor Armstrong, Township Newsletter. Any other additions or deletions or changes from members of council? Seeing and hearing none. Propose a motion to approve the agenda as amended, and this is moved by Councillor Deakin, seconded by Councillor Lauren. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And pass. Thank you very much. On tombe à l'item 6, déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire. N'en voyons pas, on va continuer. Merci. Item numéro 7, motion to approve the March 9th council meeting minutes, and this is moved by Councillor Lalonde, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And pass. Thank you, members of council. And we move to item number 8. Citizen recognition, community service, and volunteerism. This is, and I say it every time, but it is the best part of this job. And so I get to do this. And so tonight we have Mr. Henry Staal that's with us. And so I've got a couple of words to share. So Henry's story is deeply rooted here. Growing up on a family farm near Hamilton Road, he went on to become one of those steady, reliable volunteers who quietly make a community stronger year after year. He dedicated over 40 years to the Russell Agricultural Society and the Russell Fair Board, taking on many leadership roles, including serving as its president in 1998, 1999, and again in 2016. Henry has also been a committed member of the Russell Lions Club, supporting community fundraising and serving as president. And through the Russell Historical Society, he helped lead major heritage restoration efforts, including the old Russell Fire Hall and the restoration of the Russell's first fire truck, which many of us have proudly seen in parades across the township and the region. In 2010, Henry founded the Vintage Iron and Traditions Eastern Ontario, which has grown to over 200 members and continues to preserve and share our local heritage through exhibits and hands-on displays that educate residents of all ages. Henry, your volunteerism has helped preserve our history, strengthen our traditions, and build pride here in Russell. On behalf of myself, council, and our entire community, thank you for everything you've done and continue to do here in Russell Township. Congratulations, and I would ask everyone to please join me in recognizing Mr. Henry Staal. So if I can ask council members to come down with me, and Mr. Staal, if you can join me at the little blue thing. The backdrop. See? That's mine. You don't lean against it. Congratulations, sir. Thank you. Take that. We'll shake some hands first.
I didn't really take a picture first.
Yeah, okay, we'll do picture first, then shake hands. I look short here. That's good. Yeah, okay, so Penny, I'll invite you to, if you want to say a few words, podium is. It's right there. Do you need a microphone? No.
He doesn't need a microphone. That's it.
Go for it. You seem shot. Okay?
I am until I get going. Your worship, honorary members of council, I'd like to thank you very much for this award. It is so much appreciated, and I thank you very much. It was not long ago Russell was named one of the best places in Canada to live, and I'm happy to have been part of that. I would like to thank Connie Johnson for nominating me. I grew up on a farm right across the road from Connie's farm, and I've always been very impressed with all that Connie has done in the community. My parents were volunteers. Mom volunteered at Winchester Hospital for over 30 years, and Dad was on the Ag Society many years and president in 1966, and I learned from them too. And most of all, I guess, I'd like to thank my wife Cora, my children Kelly, Luke, and Ryan, who were doing all the extra work at home on the farm while I was volunteering. So again, thank you very much. Thank you.
So again, congratulations, Henry. It's people like you and your family, and there are many amongst us in this room right now that make the difference in our community. And we truly, truly appreciate it. And I know we see many of you throughout different events that we go to, and the time that you give to this community is truly, truly appreciated. And I've got young people moving back to the community who tell us that they're coming back to raise a family because they want to be in a place where they feel they're part of a community. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right, so for those of you that were just here for Henry, you have to stay. We'll be serving popcorn. Yeah, you don't have to stay at all. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, and thank you for supporting Henry. Where did I put my glasses?
I told you.
Okay, we'll get started in a minute or two. You thought they were all here for you, eh? I get this kind of disheartening where everyone leaves. I get that every time we give an award out. Oh, no, those doors have to stay open. Yeah, it's a public meeting, no problem. I get in trouble if that happens. No, it's all good. Thank you, thank you. All right, fantastic. We'll get going. C'est bon, Madame Camille, on avance. Alors, on est au numéro 9, Delegations, Petitions. And today we've got the pleasure of welcoming Mr. Cholly Boland, delegation presented by Mr. Boland for the Winchester District Memorial Hospital. And so we've got the presentation ready. I think we're ready to go. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to appear before you. Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here before you, and especially on a special evening like tonight. Before you started the festivities, I was able to personally thank Henry for the fundraising he's done for Winchester Hospital. So we've crossed paths in the past. So happy to do that. And although I'm here to talk about the hospital, I just want to spend 1 minute to thank you about something else. You have chosen to support Dundas Manor Long-Term Care Home, which is home to former residents of this area. And I just want to thank you so much for that support. Our construction project is on schedule, it's on budget, it's about 80% completed, and we're on schedule for the whole crew to move into the new home sometime later this year. We'll be doubling the number of beds that we currently have, so it could well be home to more people from this area. So thanks once again.
Fantastic, and you got to thank Mr. Smurl for
Very
being the most persistent and patient fundraiser that I've ever met, and he's fantastic. And
He's
yeah,
a legend unto himself.
yeah, he is, absolutely.
But in any case, talking about the hospital, we're in the process of going through a strategic planning process, long-term planning process. And part of that is consultation with our stakeholders, our partners, and one of them was with your mayor. And he and many of his other colleagues just reminded me that, didn't remind me that we're your hospital, but there's lots of information we can be sharing. And in fact, I used to come to this council and the others every couple of years pre-pandemic, and somehow that just went by the wayside. So I'm back now and hope to be back regularly, and just want to give you an update and an overview on Winchester Hospital, because again, it is your hospital. So just a few things here. Every hospital, most organizations have a mission, vision, and values. Our version is what we call a commitment, and it's a commitment to our patients, our community, our hospital, and ourselves. And you can read it there. It kind of reads like a very straightforward mission and vision and values. And when we put this together, we had a group. We had a physician who'd been working in the area for 45 years, Dr. David Flowers, and he said 2 words sum up the very best of Winchester Hospital. That's compassionate excellence. Excellence, we're always trying to do better and get better, and the compassion part, where what I hear from some patients, at Winchester Hospital, we're not just a number, we have that compassion. So that's, hopefully, if you've ever occasion to come to Winchester Hospital, that's a thread you see working through all our hospital. Every hospital in the province has an external company that surveys its patients and monitors patient satisfaction. We're very proud of the results that our patients tell us in terms of their level of satisfaction. Even though we're up in the mid-90s, we're under no delusion that we're even close to perfect. We're always trying to be more excellent. We do get some complaints from time to time. I can't say we enjoy them, but we learn from them, and that's how we learn to get better. Other things that we're proud of, we have about 80,000 annual patient visits. About 1/6 of that, around 13,000 of the visits are from this area, so kind of substantial part of the populace. Every 4 years, this national body called Accreditation Canada comes through and measures us against national standards for the quality of patient care and patient safety. And as I say, it's nice for us to think we do a good job. It's great for other eyes to come in, this national company, to say, you know, you do quite well. We get their highest award called Accreditation with Exemplary Standing, and we've received that for the last 12 years, so we're proud of that. We do a lot of things really well, really well, that we're proud of. One of the things we've done that no other hospital has done in the province is throughout the pandemic and ever since, we're the only hospital in Ontario that's never had a COVID outbreak because our focus on infection control is really strong. So we're proud of that. We are the largest cancer satellite in Ontario. Every smaller hospital is a satellite of a bigger hospital. We're part of the Regional Cancer Centre, but we're actually the largest satellite in Ontario. So if you come to us for cancer care, unfortunately you have that diagnosis, you'll get the same level of care, the same standard that you get anywhere else, and even in a bigger organization. And we also have other accreditations that, you know, make us proud. Laboratory and pharmacy get accredited every year. So that's what other folks say how well we do. If you're familiar with us, like many hospitals, we have major programs. Of course, there's surgery, and we have different types of surgery. We'll probably be adding to that over the next few years. We have a maternity, a family birthing program. I'm really not personally involved, but we give birth to help give birth to about 700 babies every year. They don't do this anymore, but up until a few years ago, all the maternity programs in the province were ranked. And at times we were ranked absolutely number one, not among small hospitals, among all hospitals. So we're very proud of that. As a maternity center, we have all, as I call the bells and whistles. We have specialists in technology, but we also have a very small town atmosphere and a very caring environment. So we're proud of that. I mentioned cancer care. We're also a regional program for kidney dialysis. That's where someone's kidneys are failing, and unfortunately they have to come in 3 times a week to literally get their blood cleaned because their kidneys aren't doing that, but we have that, and we work that 365 around the clock. We have inpatient services beds. A lot of our visiting specialists are in our outpatient clinics, and we have more to add to that. And then, of course, we have an emergency department. Now, in the last few years, we've added more services. If Dr. Paul were here talking about the public health unit, he would remind us in this broad area, we have a very high, on average, rate of smoking. And unfortunately, we also have a very high rate of respiratory conditions. So in the last few years, we've added pulmonary function testing, which is care closer to home. That's a special test apparatus that tests the strength of your heart and lungs. We've added respiratory therapy professionals in the hospital to minister and care for people with respiratory conditions. And we've become part of the provincial lung screening program, which is people referred to us by doctors who may be at risk or be suspected of having lung cancer. We've added that. We've added dermatology, skin specialists, neurology, brain specialists, nephrology, kidney specialists, and ophthalmology, which is eyes. We had kind of a marquee program up until about 2 years ago. We had 3 ophthalmologists, and the government kind of changed the way ophthalmologists is funded and structured, so it made them want to work more in their office than in the hospital. That's been on hold for 2 years. We've just recently recruited a new ophthalmologist and started those clinics and that program again in January. So it's back in business, and literally people come from all over to get cataracts done and other operations. We don't just provide care, we have quite a robust teaching program. We have a family medicine residency, and that means after a doctor does their 4 years of school, they have to do a 2-year residency, which is kind of on-the-job training under supervision. And used to be those residencies were only in the big city hospitals, you know, Montfort, the Ottawa Hospital, and they'd come to a place like Winchester for exposure to rural medicine for 5 days. They'd call it a week in the country, and you know, that's not enough exposure to anything. So 12 years ago, we started our own family residency program, and we started with 2 residents. This year, we have 10 residents. Every year, about 5 of those spots comes open because it's a 2-year program. And of those 5 spots, usually we have about 300 applicants from across Canada. So we're in very high demand. It reflects the quality of the services we offer and the quality of the teaching our doctors offer. And we have all kinds of other trainees. You know, we have medical students, nursing students, pharmacy students, all those folks. There's real benefits to that. First of all, you've got new blood, energy, ideas in the building. And we also hire about half of them. They're a kind of 2-3 year program of they audition us, we audition them, and we're able to recruit those. So that's very fortunate. We also have a research program that started about 10 years ago and has built slowly. We started out doing kind of regular research studies, transitions from, you know, discharges from rural hospitals, mental health care in the emergency department. And we've slowly transferred that or moved towards clinical trials. So that's bringing in, I'll call them experimental drugs. Now, when you have an experimental drug, there's 3 phases. The first phase is, does the drug cause harm? Does it, you know, hurt people? The second phase is, does it really do what it's supposed to do? And the third phase is, does it do what it's supposed to do, and what's the proper dosage? Our involvement is in that third phase, so they're all safe. But the benefit is that patients in our area get access to these drugs that they normally have to wait 2 years till they got to market. So it's a real boon for the patients in our area, as well as learning through research. We also have what I'll call a health hub. The former government before Ford called it that. All it means is we've got a lot of services in one place. We've got the hospital. I talked to you about Dundas Manor Long-Term Care Home. We've got 2 medical buildings, 2 buildings the hospital is a landlord for, and in those we've got almost all the health and social services in our general area. We've got a big computer data center that kind of behind closed doors, bits and bytes, we house the applications for a lot of Eastern Ontario. So we do a lot of things that's not Winchester specific, that we spread out, and we're very fortunate for that. One of the trickiest questions I ever get is, how many people work at the hospital? Well, we got about over 400 staff that are on the payroll. We've got over 200 doctors who, you know, they're not employees of us, but they are employed to work in the hospital by the government. We've got volunteers. Unfortunately, before the pandemic, we had a little over 200 volunteers, and most of them chose not to come back. So if anyone knows anyone who'd like to volunteer at the hospital for an hour a week, a couple hours a month, let us know. We'd be happy to talk to them and welcome them back. And as I mentioned, we also have trainees and students. So you either look at it as we have 400 staff or close to 900 people working there. And we are very fortunate we're fully staffed. We don't have big vacancies, that kind of thing. We're accountable. We had a balanced budget for 15 years, up until a few years ago, which we've had the last few years of deficits. But the government provided us with some additional funding just before Christmas. So we're going to do okay this year and hopefully for the several years to come. Alternate level of care patients are probably a term you may not be familiar with. These are folks that come into the hospital, get treated for whatever they came into the hospital for, but then really have nowhere to go or have some other condition that can't be treated in the hospital but prevents them from going home. We have a lot of partnerships with different types of facilities and homes, and so we have very few of those patients because the hospital is a terrible place to live if you don't need to be there. We have a very small administration. There are 64 small hospitals in Ontario. We have the smallest administration of all those small hospitals. The government sets targets for efficiency and excellence, and we meet those. We have very fortunate with our staff, low overtime, low sick time, and we've never used a staffing agency. We've never had to go out and pay someone to provide us some staff, so we're happy with that. So just to conclude some of our challenges, I mentioned finances. This week's budget may give us some indication whether we're going to have some more stability into the future. We have some very young staff. We've had a big turnover post-pandemic, and that's great to bode well for the future. We've got a demographic that's going to grow into the career with our hospital. It provides some challenges because they don't have as much experience as the people that have retired and they've replaced, but we're on that. Technology, anyone can understand this, is very, very expensive. It costs the same for us to purchase artificial intelligence program as it does a much bigger hospital, and we can less afford it, but we're making inroads there. Cybersecurity for any organization. We have multiple attacks every day. In the last 6 or 7 years, we've only had a couple of attacks that have come close, not quite, but close to being successful, but we're a target, we're a big organization. If you talk to anybody, probably yourselves or anybody else, they're very complimentary about WDMH. The one thing they'll criticize us for, which is fair, is it's a long time to wait in our emergency department. Really no shorter or longer than other emergency departments. It's just the nature of hospital and the way our emergency departments are funded and structured. But you may know this, emergency departments are not first come, first served. If you come in with chest pains, you'll be seen within seconds. If you're less ill, less acute pain, less acute type of condition, you may have to wait depending on who else is there. And our next big project is we have just about every service that any general hospital would have. We do not have an MRI, which is something that you have to go to Cornwall for, you have to go to Ottawa for. We submitted our application to the government a couple of years ago. We know it's in Queen's Park somewhere, so if anyone has any type of conservative ties, put in a good word for us. We're just waiting for approval. And that's it about the hospital. Again, thank you for your support, both Dundas Manor, on ongoing support over many, many years of the hospital. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Boland. Great presentation. I guess I would lead off the questions by asking you, what can we do as a council, as a community, to better support Winchester?
This is providing a forum like this just to kind of get the word out. I'm pretty sure you'd be on the mailing list for our newsletters and press releases and that type of thing. Anything you can do to distribute those. You've been great as a community in terms of fundraising and support, so I really can't ask anything beyond that. But if ever you have a question, a suggestion, a critique, hear a rumor or something, please give me a call, send me an email, let me address it, let me share that information with you.
And in terms of your connections with our provincial MPPs, they're good, they're responsive. Is there anything we can do there? We have great relationships with them. And
I do. Ours is Stormont Dundas Glengarry.
Yeah.
Officially, I've actually met with Stefan on several occasions, so he's been supportive in principle. But yes, we have very positive relations with all the MPPs in this area.
excellent. Good. Well, thank you very much. And we're here. Our doors are open, and always happy to have the insight and whatever we can do. So I'll just open it up to Council, Councillor Armstrong, and then Council Deacon.
Yeah, I'm interested in the number of residents in the family medicine program. We had a report here just a few weeks ago about the shortage of family medicine specialists within the local area. And I was just wondering how many of those residents in the program actually stay in rural Eastern Ontario to practice?
I don't have the number off the top of my. I can picture the ones that have stayed. And I'm gonna take a stab. I mentioned earlier, probably at least half. At least half. I mean, some come are from Toronto and that kind of thing, not that they want to work in Toronto, but family is more that way. So, you know, family is a factor like it is for anything, but also just the quality of work life, which is really in our favor, and, you know, the exceptional work environment we offer as a hospital.
Okay, thank you.
And just before I hand it over, so again, the offer of doing anything we can to support you includes anything we can do to wow those people to stay with us as well. So, Councillor Deacon.
Thank you so much for your presentation. As someone who drives my kids late night to the Winchester Hospital ER, you and your staff are very much appreciated for all that you do. Please pass that along to them at every opportunity that you have. You mentioned that the hospital is deeply partnered, which is our strength in our rural communities, right? And you also mentioned that you're in the process of going through a strategic planning exercise, and I understand that Mr. Mayor and perhaps staff as well were able to give input or some sort of collaboration on that. I'm just curious what you're seeing. I mean, you're in the process right now, but what does the next 5 to 10 years hold for the hospital, and what are your next steps with your planning process?
Well, we're almost completed. We're actually having a board workshop tomorrow morning to kind of almost finalize the strategic plan. There's nothing in that you probably wouldn't guess at. People want, and we are going to do our best to provide, more services closer to home. So that's more specialties, maybe broader services than we have now, you know, just adding to the current services. People want shorter wait times, better access, that kind of thing. In terms of what holds with the hospital, I mean, we're going to continue to be a general services hospital, hopefully add some, you know, some really granular services, maybe new specialists, new surgeries, that type of thing, big thing like an MRI. As you know, to some degree the same as you, we're governed by government direction, or we're the result of government direction. My sense is the government is not planning to do anything dramatic within healthcare. So I think all the signals we got through our strategic planning process are pretty valid, and it's really up to us to set that agenda along the lines of I just described.
Any other questions, members of council? Thank you so much for your presentation and your time tonight. Appreciate it, and we look forward to the continued dialogue and regular presentations. And again, the door is open on our side. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
All right. Alors, on tombe à l'item 10, point par consentement. Alors, tous les articles énumérés sous la rubrique articles faisant l'objet d'un consentement seront adoptés par une résolution. Ces articles requièrent un vote majoritaire et ne doivent pas faire l'objet d'une discussion séparée, à moins que la demande à cet effet soit faite avant que le Conseil vote sur la résolution. Les articles séparés doivent être examinés immédiatement par la suite. So I'll have a motion that all items listed under consent items be received as presented. And this is moved by Councillor Lawrence, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Thank you kindly. We move to 11 reports from departments and council committees, starting for 11A. That council receive report PD 2026-06 dated March 23rd, 2026, and approve the zoning bylaw amendment to change the zoning of the subject land from R1 zone R1 to R3 zone with special exception 63 in brackets R3-63 to allow for the construction of a 9-unit stacked townhouse dwelling with the following requirements. Minimum front yard setback of 6 meters, minimum interior side yard setback north 3 meters, minimum interior side yard setback south 24 meters, minimum rear yard setback 7.5 meters, maximum building height 9 meters, minimum landscaped open space 35%, number of required parking spaces for the use 17, number of visitor parking spaces 2, number of barrier-free parking spaces 1. This has gone, if I remember correctly, it's gone back and forth. Anything to add, Monsieur Bourgon?
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. I will simply add that the recommendation that's in front of Council it's a slight change from the site plan or what was discussed with the planning committee, just to have the dimension or the setbacks more as a round number, so that way it does give a tiny flexibility to place the building if there would be any constraint on site.
So.
And that was discussed with the proponent.
Okay, so clarification, from my understanding, is the numbers that I see here are not the numbers that were presented at planning, is that correct?
The building, or the site plan that was presented to the committee, this different setbacks did vary a little bit from the recommendation that's in front of council.
Okay, so on that note, I will turn it over to members of the planning committee. So Councillor Lauren?
Yeah, just real quick, I noticed one piece that I thought we had put into the resolution from the planning committee, which was to restrict the project. And I see the notes that the proponent wanted some flexibility there. My concern is that the proponent doesn't move forward, gets the R3 zoning application put through, and then sells the property, and they put a bigger development on it, like the 3-story apartment complexes from across the street. I think most people are in favor of what is being proposed, the units, the way they are laid out, similar to what a previous application was across the street. And then once the R3 zone went in, we had no say at this table and no say at the planning level because the zoning had been changed. So how do we get to a point where if that person decides not to build, and I have every confidence that they will, but if they don't and they decide to sell the property, how do we restrict the zoning then from an R3 open concept?
Thank you, Councillor. Monsieur Bourgon?
Merci, Monsieur Maire. To answer the question, so the recommendation that's in front of council, it's a site-specific. It does limit the construction at 9 units with all the different setbacks.
So regardless of ownership, Monsieur Bourgon, is what
Well,
you're
yeah,
saying?
exactly. That's what's presented in front of the council. It's to have a site-specific zoning restriction.
So then, sorry.
Go ahead.
So then if they were to sell that property, they couldn't just go ahead and put in a 3-story or 4-story or 5-story apartment unit?
Monsieur
They-
Bourgon?
If approved tonight, it would be limited to a 9-unit. If the new owner would decide to do something different, a new zoning change would have to be
Okay.
put in place. What I wanna, it's, at the committee was discussed as an example, 6.3 meter as a setback. Tonight, we're proposing 6. It's more of a specific number than just estimation, just to give some flexibility. If the building needs to move by a foot or by 0.3 meter, well, it does have that flexibility.
Merci, Monsieur Bourgon. Conseiller Lalonde, quelque chose à rajouter?
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. That was our understanding, so I'm glad that it's also staff's. I just have a couple comments and questions, so if you'll bear with me, I just need a few minutes here. I want to talk about, there's a section of the review process that reflects on the UCPR's official plan, recognizing that ours isn't approved just yet. But in theirs, which is cited, there's a short sentence, but an important one for me, that talks about to manage the rate of growth and the amount of residential development, to maintain and enhance the small town character. So I just want to maybe dwell on that for a few seconds. I know we've had some explosive development on Concession Street with regards to apartment buildings. I don't think the likes of which have been seen anywhere else in the township. We have like 3 or 4 major apartment building complexes in a row in that section of the street. And regrettably, except for maybe one, the landscaping and the character that the plan tries to point them to has been pretty much ignored. I don't want to pick on this application to correct the wrongs or improve maybe in those areas where I think there's some improvement that's needed. But I'll talk instead about treescape and streetscape, and the fact that this property in particular has 2 trees that we know of, I believe, that are on township's easement, which I expect will be protected and preserved. It's to be, I guess, carefully considered, knowing that there'll be a lot of heavy equipment near and around those trees to make sure that we can hang on to them. We have so few trees in that area on the street. And there's another tree on that property that may be close to heritage value in the sense of its age. It's a little further back, maybe 15 feet or so on the property, so it is on their property. But I'm just hoping, and if staff, if there's a chance to invoke that section of the OP that talks about enhancing the small town character, that can be imparted on the proponent with regards to that particular tree, that it might somehow be preserved as well. It's, all I can do is urge staff in this case to consider that, to consider a discussion with the proponent on that subject. I know it's not a condition that can be imposed. I know we're here tonight to approve a zoning bylaw amendment and not to approve their site plan, but still I want to make those points. Just 2 others that I want to make as well, aside of the trees, that I'm particularly interested in terms of us being able to preserve them, is the snow storage designation on the property. To me, this is a bit of a peculiar thing that I've been learning about over the last couple of years on the Planning Advisory Committee. I've witnessed apartment building owners put their snow in parking spaces because really they don't have, when we get a lot of it, they don't really know what else to do with it, to the point of pushing it into their own fences and pushing over their own fences. So I know this was a year with a lot more snow than in previous, but I'm a little concerned about how it gets really knocked up against the property line as a matter of procedure for them, because it puts the residents, the adjacent homeowners, at risk of flooding in spring. Indeed, we had a case like that in Embrun of late, or the concern over that and the snow storage, and it happens to be a building that belongs to the same proponent. So I just, again, if I can urge or encourage staff to look at that carefully to make sure that we don't end up with that same sort of conflict in this case, where the snow storage area is right up against a lot line, and where we get a lot of it, that it risks causing some flooding to the neighbors. The last thing I wanted to talk about, if I could, is
Councillor, you are at 5 minutes. You're approaching at 5 minutes. If you
okay.
just-
I'll make it
Okay,
quick
please.
if
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is the drainage? I know that snow storage and the parking and the asphalt is looked at all together from an engineering perspective to ensure that that stuff will ultimately drain away. And I know that the drainage out in front of the property is into a ditch, into a culvert, that they fill up very quickly in springtime on that street. Again, if staff, if they haven't already done so, can give that some particular attention to how that's all going to drain away into right now what is a very simple looking ditch culvert system, as opposed to the underground drainage, storm drain management that we have elsewhere on that street, I'd be grateful.
Thank you,
Thank
Councillor.
you.
Thank you, Councillor. So in your presentation, we talked about urging staff around tree protection. I'm sure that staff want to protect the trees, but I'm just not sure that, Monsieur Bourgon, est-ce qu'on a du contrôle au-dessus de qu'est-ce qu'on a comme sur notre propriété, sur la propriété publique?
Merci, Monsieur Maire. So staff, we have the ability to protect the trees that's on municipal property.
And in terms of our ability to urge the developer, what are...
Legally, not much.
Not much.
On
We
the
can
private
encourage,
property.
yeah, we can encourage, but we are limited, just to recognize that. And In terms of the snow and the water aspect, what are the abilities by the municipality when we're looking at this type of development?
For this type of development, for snow storage, there's not much that can be done from the administration's point of view, since it's not like, if it, by staying at the 9 unit, it won't go through a site plan process.
So
we
they don't
want-
even have to demonstrate much?
No, not really. They still need to respect the drainage. That's something that the grading plan will be reviewed. But in terms of drainage, of snow storage, it would be really hard for municipality to enforce.
Thank you. So this is
And-
just.
And to add, there's been a reference to water, where it's gonna go, ditches. Well, there's storm sewers in Russell at that location. So the proponent will have the ability to connect his parking lot to the storm sewers.
So that'll drain automatically.
Exactly.
Merci.
So you'll have a proper outlet for
Okay.
for the majority of the drainage of the property.
Okay, thank you. A quick rebuttal there, Councillor.
Just to follow up then, I know that for the time being, until we have a new tree bylaw in place, there's nothing to prevent that property owner from cutting down that tree that's further in on their property, or keeping it for that matter. It just makes me think, and maybe another desire to encourage and urge staff that we get that bylaw back as soon as we can, because it would then give us some form of protection or assurance, in the sense that if that tree did have to get cut down, that the bylaw that's proposed would require that a tree be, first of all, that a permit be applied for in that case, and that a tree be planted in its place afterwards. So it just makes me think of the bylaw, and I look forward to seeing that come back.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, we'll move forward. Thank you. Moving to item B. That council receive report CSASFS 2026-09 dated March 23rd, 2026, and approve the proposed bylaw to amend Schedule C1 of the User Fees and Charges Bylaw 2025-130 to reflect the amendment approved on February 9th, 2026, to reflect the good July 1st, 2025 rates being the previous rates. Anything to add to that, Monsieur Dagenet? No. Questions, comments, members of council? No, thank you. We'll move forward. And as mentioned earlier on, 10C is moving to was separated, so we're going to move directly to 10D. Madame Camille Laflamme, that's the proper way, correct? Yes, thank you. So item 10D. The council received report PIC 2026-07 dated March 23rd, 2026, and approve as recommended in this report the noise exemption request for the Russell Fair on Thursday, August 13th from 11 p.m. to midnight for the truck pull, on Friday, August 14th and Saturday, August 15th from 11 to 1 a.m. for outdoor musical entertainment, and also on August 15th from 11 p.m. to midnight for the demo derby. This is a typical request we get on an annual basis. Anything to add, Madame Bourdeau?
You will see that we've added a line in the history of the report which reflects that we have not received complaints for the 2025 event. That was a direction from council.
That's correct, yes.
So
That's good. Thank you. Councillor Lauren?
Sorry, for some reason I was just looking at the request, but then is there another one down the way? Oh, okay, the public event one. Okay,
Yeah.
that's why I was
We're
looking
good?
at that one. Yeah, we're good.
Any other questions or comments on this item, members of council? No, thank you. Alors, on tombe à l'item E, que le Conseil reçoive le rapport PIC 2026-08 daté du 23 mars 2026 et approuve le règlement proposé tel que recommandé dans ce rapport afin de modifier le règlement sur les enseignes 2016-52 afin d'élargir l'utilisation et d'augmenter la taille des enseignes sur place. Madame Bourdeau.
oui, le règlement est pour changer les grandeurs pour les enseignes de services sur les propriétés, car on s'aperçoit qu'il y a beaucoup d'enseignes qui ont justement élargi avec les nouveaux menus, les choses comme ça dans différentes corporations. Puis aussi, on a eu des demandes pour des utilisations d'enseignes pour identifier les produits qui sont à l'extérieur des entreprises, comme des ventes d'automobiles ou des choses comme ça, où est-ce qu'ils veulent identifier où sont les automobiles, exemple, usagés, pour que les gens puissent justement voir qu'est-ce qu'il y a sur place sans être obligés d'entrer à l'intérieur. Donc, c'est des enseignes utilisées à ces fonctions. Puis, la grandeur devait être quand même changée pour certaines de ces applications.
Merci. Alors, on parle d'aller de 0,33 mètres carrés à 1,85 mètres carrés, ce qui représente est-ce que ça représente moyennement la grosseur des pancartes qu'on voit en ce moment dans les drive-thru?
Je crois que c'est un petit peu plus gros que qu'est-ce que certains ont. J'ai pas fait le tour de... Mais c'est en partie ce qu'on avait identifié nécessaire.
D'accord. Puis ça, c'était avec la consultation des entreprises et...
Consultation avec certaines entreprises, puis aussi avec les gens qui installent les panneaux puis qui appliquent pour des permis.
OK. Formidable. Merci beaucoup, Mme Bourdeau. Question, commentaire, membre du Conseil, conseiller Armstrong.
Yeah, the term on premises, I'm assuming that means on private property. Am I correct?
On the business's property,
On the
Mme
business
Bourdeau?
property.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering why we would restrict what a business would put on their sign when it's on their property, the message actually expressed. Because it says, expand the use of these signs to include product placement advertising on the property. Why do we actually restrict what they say?
I think that's meant to explain the type of sign as opposed to what it's made to represent. That's the way I read it, certainly. So, Mme Bourdeau, can you clarify?
Yes, it's just to give you an example of what these signs are used for. We don't regulate what's written on them.
That's correct. A follow-up there, Councillor Armstrong?
No.
No, thank you. Any other comments, members of council? Thank you. Moving to item F, that council receive report ISPW 2026-02 dated March 23rd, 2026, and approve the proposed bylaw to award a contract and authorize entry into an agreement with Blair Asphalt for the paving of the selected roads for $4,070,753 and, let's not forget, 2 cents, plus $71,645,000.25 for a total of $4,142,398.27. This amount includes 1.76% of non-refundable HST, and that the Executive Director of Planning and Infrastructure Services be authorized to sign the agreement. So this is a $4 million contract. Township portion is $1.98 million, and it's a joint contract with Nation and North Stormont, which is, I think, a great example of the collaboration to reduce the cost. Before we go to council, Monsieur Bourgon, anything to add on that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the overall, we're under budget for the overall the project. That leaves us enough space for the gravel to put on our shoulder, roller rental, a few culverts to replace throughout those projects. So we'll be able to finish the entire job within budget. We need to leave ourselves some contingency since we know the index will likely increase since we've seen the price of the gas in the last few weeks. So monthly, the contractor is allowed to adjust his pricing based on the tender price.
Thank you. Councillor Lauren?
Yeah, Mr. Bourgon mentioned it, but I'll just throw the numbers out there. The budget was 2.4 million, and our costs are coming in at 1.984 million. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's our.
So $400,000 better, which allows us some flexibility there. So glad to see that we actually had a good number in the budget, and we came under that number. So it's great news.
Again, I think that that's another kind of push for that collaboration piece as well. So Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, I'm pleased to see that we've collaborated with Nation and North Stormont. Have we not collaborated with other municipalities or more municipalities in the past? And if so, why the change?
Sure, so there is a great answer to that because I asked that question early on. So Monsieur Bourgon, I'll let you provide
Yes,
that
Mr.
answer.
Mayor. So, Councillor Armstrong, you're correct. We've been with the county for a long period of time. Over the last three, if not four tender, we've downsized our the size of the tender. It's easier to manage, and just by the location of the paving plan, we were receiving different type of pricing throughout the counties, and now by being more out west, we're three municipalities in this case closer to the plants. We are we're having a better price per ton this way. So it's good to calibrate, but it's also to find the right balance.
And then I think what really struck me is the point that when we are too big, asking for too much, that limits the contractors that could bid for it, and in some ways reduces our opportunities. And so I think that gives us that
That's a
flexibility.
good point as
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments on this? Thank you. Merci beaucoup pour le beau travail, Monsieur Bourgon, là-dessus. Moving to item G, that council receive report ISWW 2026-02 dated March 23rd, 2026, and accept the bid for CIMA Plus to complete the environmental assessment for the new wastewater treatment plant. So this is 180K costs for the EA relating to wastewater. Financed, the financing on that is 70% our township, 30% La Nation, as part of our, again, collaboration on wastewater. So the township portion, I believe, comes up to around 126K, and our budget was about 200K, Monsieur Bourgon, on that?
It was 200 this year and 250 for next year. So we were anticipating about a 450 for the
For the
entirety
EA.
of that EA, yes,
And so the full EA right now is going to cost us about 126.
exactly.
Okay, fantastic. And so that's great news, and that doesn't impact, we did apply for a grant pertaining to the EA at the I think, Minister Murphy, when we were, Murphy.
Thompson, it's for the rural affairs that we applied
Okay,
for
there-
a value of
yeah.
$50,000.
Okay, that's for the EA to help us pay for that. So, and we did get support from MPP Sarrazin on that as well, so he wrote a letter, so we're looking forward to find out on that. So, all around good news. Questions and comments, members of council on this? Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, just CIMA Plus did our wastewater master planning. In the federal government, if a company did that, they would be prohibited from bidding on the actual work that results of that planning, unless you go, of course, to the Treasury Board, which is done routinely, well, not routinely, but often. Do we have anything in our contracting policy that limits that or gives us a bit of a pause to do that?
Thank you, Councillor. Monsieur Bourgon?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. So our purchasing policy doesn't cover that type of work. It really limits if CIMA would have prepared the tender and really established the criteria. But in this case, they did the master plan for both municipalities. So on their pricing, it does reflect the understanding of the situation. But they were not involved in preparing the RFP or the how.
The specs
or
and so on.
The specs for the DEA itself.
Fantastic. And then just a final clarification on the 70-30 split would be based on our general thought on the collaboration cost with La Nation on usage rate, correct?
And and it's based also on flow of like the capacity used in the facility, and it's exactly the same split that was used to establish our DC early or at late 25.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Monsieur Bourgon. Autre question ou commentaire des membres du conseil? Non? Merci. On tombe à l'item H, mise à jour du complexe récréatif, alors que le conseil reçoive le rapport. C'est ça, je suis à la bonne place? Oui. Le rapport PR 2026-04 daté du 23 mars 2026 à titre d'information. So overall, great news on this particular report. I enjoyed reading it. 70 million loan instead of the $80 million loan because of Mr. Ford's visit. We're going with IO, gives us certainty and stability. The current modeling provides about a 7K surplus from our original plan in terms of payments. I wanted to ask quickly when you have a chance, or maybe Monsieur Dagenet, does the IO, going with the IO, provide us flexibility on repayments? Monsieur Dagenet?
Bonsoir, Monsieur le maire et chers membres du conseil. So, no, as when you get locked in with IO for 25 or 30 years, you're set with an interest rate and a payment, and that's it. So if ever you have too much cash flow at some point and you want to put more money down on the loan, you can't do that.
Okay, thank you. Quelque chose à rajouter, Madame Guittard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. No, I think you've summarized the most important parts of the report. I would like also to bring to your attention that I've mentioned towards the end of the report that at the end of April, I will be bringing forth a operational update because I want to keep it separate from the construction update. So from now until we move in, I would like to bring you some updates on the operations to make sure that everybody is aware of what's going on and how we're going to do it, and so to have full transparency with council and the public.
Bien apprécié. Merci beaucoup, Madame Guittard. On that note, are we going to be able to do another follow-up visit as a council on site?
Yes, you will.
On the record? Okay, good. Councillor Laura.
Yeah, I'm just going to take this opportunity, not talking about the actual report, but because the recreation complex is here, I just want to reiterate what we're getting in the recreation complex, because there's still a lot of confusion, a lot of rumors, a lot of misinformation out there. I mean, I had somebody stop me the other day and ask me if we were getting one rink in our recreation complex. So just for the record, we are getting 3 NHL-sized rinks. One of the rinks, seating of 256 people, plus about, another 150 and be able to stand around. So 400, just over 400 capacity. The other 2 rinks, again, NHL size, capacity 150, 175 people, 25-meter swimming pool, 6-lane, and that is competition capable or qualified, if we will, for the pool, and a 8 to 10,000 square foot community center that could be broken into 3 distinct separate rooms.
Madame Guittard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. 10,000 square feet divided in 3.
Correct. Okay. So that's that's great. That's what I wanted to make sure of, that we continue to reiterate that is the plan, and that we were, at this point in time, we are on target for end of October, mid to end of October utilization of the facility. Correct?
That is right.
Merci, Madame Guittard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor. And Councillor Deacon.
I don't want to go out too much on a limb, but I believe there are 2 pools, a leisure pool as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I think often people are saying there will be a pool, there will be a pool. There will be actually, in fact, in the natatorium, the word I now know thanks to this report, there will be 2 pools. So I know for especially young families wanting perhaps a little bit of a more shallow, warmer pool and great for seniors with aquafit and activities like that as well. My understanding tonight is that we're not making any decisions on financing. We're simply looking at a few different scenarios. Can I just get confirmation on that? We haven't made a decision on IO for the financing, but I'm curious when that decision would be, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you, Councillor. Monsieur Dagenet?
Well, right now we're approved with IO for the loan, so when the construction's going to be done, we got 120 days to transfer the construction loan into a permanent loan.
Mortgage, yeah.
So construction should be done end of October, start of November, so this decision will be able to be taken at the December or January, but yeah, it's coming. And like Madame Guittard was saying, we're going to be presenting a report more on operation. So if I have updates on financial or maybe more different scenarios as we will be closer to the end goal, so we'll have less unknowns. Like right now, we're still receiving change orders. Like everything's still looking great, but so I would like in June to bring another report just on this, so to give this council a great view of, okay, that's what it should look at when the loan is going to be taken in December or January.
And if I can, basically, this is, we're still far enough ahead of time. What we're looking at doing is guaranteeing or having some certainty on a rate at some point before we're done building, so that we can transfer it into a mortgage as we would in our normal lives when we build a house or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's the thing with IO. We'll only know the exact rate when we decide, okay, we're
We're good to go.
transferring the loan. So it is bringing us, like with the economy we lived in right now, it's sometimes
Some uncertainty, yeah.
there's a certainty. So we are also looking with a different financial institution that they have more leverage, that they could guarantee us maybe something six months in advance to give us that flexibility. If ever something happens in September and the interest rate, they jumped, we'll be able to fall back with the.
Yeah, but the IO gives us that certainty over a long period of time, the rate certainty over a long period, that otherwise we're dealing with the 5-year mortgage type things,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Okay, follow up, Councillor Deegan? No. Any other questions on this item? It sounds,
Nope.
Nope, it sounds, it sounds all very positive right now, really excited. Don't want to start blowing any trumpets. Comment on dit ça, des trompettes? C'est un peu trop tôt pour ça, mais on s'en va dans la bonne direction. Alors, félicitations à toute l'équipe. Content de voir ça avancer. Alors, on tombe à l'item I. So the council receives report PR 2026-05 dated March 23rd, 2026, and approve the Russell Agricultural Society's request to obtain a public event liquor permit for their Ladies' Night event held on May 1st, 2026. Anything to add on this, Madame Bordeaux?
I don't.
Oh, excuse-moi. Madame Guittard.
Yeah, it's Parks and Rec. No, thank you. There's nothing I can
Okay.
add.
Thank you. Questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Lauren.
Yeah, so nothing really on that item, but the concept. I mean, I have an item at 18 that I'm bringing up, but this kind of starts to bring up other points. So I think I'll save my comments for 18, but this is where it goes with the permits and coming to council and liability, responsibility, and stuff like that. So
Sure.
we'll talk more at 18A.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, so we move to item 12, reports from investigator or ombudsman. We have none. Item 13, notice of motions. We have none. Item 14, public questions on meeting of the day. Questions must be in relation to item on the agenda. Before asking your question, please fill in your name and address on the sign-in sheet. If you wish to receive a response from a member of council or staff, please leave a phone number or email on the sheet. State your name before asking your question. And disclaimer, by asking questions during the council meeting, you are consenting to be part of a live broadcast and the official public recording of these proceedings. Questions? Thank you, Ms. I always thought I was going to read it for nothing. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, just one other. Shouldn't we be discussing 11C before we have questions from the public?
That's my question about 11C, so.
But you can ask it, it's on the agenda. If you have any questions relating to
But
the
I don't
agenda
know what the
item.
discussion's going to be.
Yeah.
Usually we have this.
Yeah, so no problem at all. So because of the way it's placed,
Yeah.
it is after the question period, but any member of council could suspend rules of procedure and add a question period at that point. And I'm happy to do so if you have
Okay.
questions relating
Okay.
to that.
All right.
So, no problem at all. That makes sense, Madame Camille-Laflamme? Oui, okay, thank you. All right. Oh. Thank you, just snuck up on me there. Go ahead.
Good evening, council members.
Just
I'll let-
state your name for
Sorry,
the record.
Dave Dyer,
Yep.
75 Mill Street in Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer.
I think I'd first of all, in recognition of acknowledging people that contribute to the community, I'd like to acknowledge the acoustic and vocal presentation that two of our councilors made during Russell Trivia this past Saturday. It was very entertaining, and I'm sure the organizer of Russell Trivia appreciated the time and effort put together.
Thank you, but I do have to ask you to ask questions.
Oh,
You have
sorry.
to form it into a question.
That's how I,
Yeah.
what is? And I've worked hard at this, believe me. There was comments in the study regarding the proposed bylaw amendment from R1 to R3. There was reference to a traffic plan, and I'm just wondering whether that was the traffic plan done for 987 Russell Road, North Russell Road.
Monsieur Bourgon, est-ce que vous êtes en mesure de répondre? Are you able to answer that?
I think I misunderstood the address.
That would be the first apartment complex that went up on North Russell Road, amongst the three that have gone up. So it was the zoning, I believe, was in 2021.
Monsieur Bourgon?
Is it related to one of the item tonight?
Yes, it's related to the zoning bylaw.
Yeah, so the amendment that's being proposed, you're asking if the traffic
was a-
study is the one that was from the previous one, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Yeah, so he's asking relating to this particular one. Does this particular zoning bylaw amendment require a traffic study?
For the amendment that's in front of council tonight, no, they did not require the traffic study.
Yeah, so this particular one does not require a traffic study.
Understood. It was just, there was reference in the recommendations from staff that there had been a previous study.
Okay, there was mentioned that
undertaken.
there was a previous study in that.
And so my question was, when and where did that study take place?
Sure, thank you. Monsieur Bourgon, because it's in the report and you're mentioning that it's referencing.
I misunderstood the question, but the municipality did a master traffic study of all intersections
2018?
in 2018.
Okay, so that's from the township's study in 2018. That's the one that's
Okay.
being referred to, not one that a proponent is required. Because if a proponent, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but if a proponent that's developing is required to do a study, the study is for access to their property, correct? And not pertaining to a traffic study on our particular main roads, which we are responsible to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes and no, but for all the infields, it would be only access.
Yeah.
If we're looking at an entire new subdivision,
Subdivision.
then they would look at the entirety of like the road network leading to the
main
new
road, yeah.
location. But in terms of infield, it's only access only. So that's the reason why in 2018 we did look at several intersections throughout the municipality to determine what's the percentage or what types of increase need to be done, improvement to all those intersections.
Yeah, so the
And that took into account all the infield subdivision in the area.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, I hadn't seen that study in a while, but that study studied every area of growth in the municipality and looked at different timelines in terms of maxing out that growth, correct? So it did address, even though it's way back in 2018, it addressed the maximum potential growth for those areas based on their zoning.
And
Okay,
it's
so it
also
would include the potential of the 3 new apartment buildings,
That's
the
correct.
schools,
That's
the 4
correct.
schools, et cetera, et
That's
cetera.
correct.
Okay.
And that study is available and could be looked at as well.
Okay, thank you. My other comment is more a general comment in terms of the provincial planning statement has sort of tied our arms around, and I got to get to a question, I realize that. But I'm just wondering, how is council or how is township reconciled the challenges between what the provincial policy statement is saying in terms of we must do, and what previous councils and this council have done in terms of tree bylaws and policies on township property in terms of the protection of trees and the mitigation of destroying trees. I'm just wondering, there's a disconnect there, and I'm just wondering how we reconcile those two different objectives.
So I'll take a stab at that, and maybe Mr. Bogon, you can help me on that. But I know that this council certainly has initiated a tree bylaw.
Yes.
In moving in that direction and wanting to support that particular aspect of the PPS. In terms of, that small town feel that Councillor Lalonde alluded to earlier on, what are the mechanisms we have? Because we have to work within the rules in the PPS itself. So, Mr. Bogon, anything to add on that? How do we maintain that character? I know we are going to, we're investing, for example, in the resurfacing of the sidewalks in Russell. We are doing certain things in that aspect, but we are limited in terms of the requirements on the Planning Act. I'll give it to Councillor Lauren.
I think the simple answer that you're not going to like is it's very difficult,
I realize that.
right? With the ever-changing landscape that the province keeps putting down, and I mean, even tonight at 18A, you're going to hear one of the other challenges that they're going to be, that they talked about today at Queen's Park. There are many challenges that councils across Ontario are dealing with things that happen at the provincial level and, even at the federal levels. So how do you reconcile it? You do your best that you can with the information that you have at the time. That's as best I can put it, for me anyway. So,
Councillor Deakin?
Yeah, similar to Councillor Lorrain, I of course can only speak for myself, but one of the opportunities that I had, in addition to things that Mayor Tarnowski has mentioned, is sitting down with township staff for a couple of hours, I believe it was, combing through what in our official planning process is actually measurable, and what in our official planning process are we as a township council able to influence, and combing through that and seeing every opportunity where, this is more of a should language and being realistic about that, and where in our official plan we can use must language. And it'll be no surprise, measurement is how things get done. I firmly believe that. And so I did make note earlier this evening around when we say preserve small town character in our planning, is that a should or is that a measurable must? And I think that the township is working, and at the county's level as well, more collaboration around how things in our planning are measured. And we can look back on that measurement and see where we actually land. What impact does this planning actually have? And is this the direction that we want to go in that sphere? See how small my hand is, that we actually get to influence. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, along that vein, Mr. Dyer has brought up a good question in terms of our official planning and thing. Am I correct in saying that our official plan still is not approved at the United Counties level? And I realize that it's been a long time and it's not unusual, but as our member on Counties Council, do you have any idea when we'd expect to see it? Because the 2018 official plan, which is our actual official plan, is out of date.
I believe I brought that up at our last meeting here, Monsieur Bogon.
It's the plan that the county staff to present in front of their council in April.
So it's coming at our April meeting at county, but it was longer than usual, but it is moving forward.
Thank you.
Councillor Lauren.
that brings up a good point. I'm assuming that there's provisions in that 2018 bylaw that allows for extension past the time frame up until the United Counties actually do pass the new one.
Yes, I
We
think
would
the
we
2018
would revert back to
stands.
the previous one.
I'm not sure the exact wording, but I know there's
Yeah.
some language in that effect.
Thank you.
Any other points?
Sorry,
Oh,
I just
sorry, go
wanted to
ahead.
make sure that people understood that we weren't abiding without an official plan. We have one. While it's expired, it's still being utilized as per the bylaw itself.
Any other questions, Mr. Dyer?
There's just a comment this evening in terms of the.
Oh, it has to be a question.
Right.
Yeah.
Are the sewers that were reflected this evening in the conversation or in the discussion, are those underground or are those related to the ditches,
Okay, pertaining to the
to the property?
storm
same
sewers?
property? Yes.
Yeah. Monsieur Bourgon?
I refer with storm sewers, so those are underground.
Yeah, they're underground.
Okay. And I have one other, I guess, question, is that, would it be, because this is a situation where we're sort of, our hands are tied behind our backs, I appreciate, in terms of units less than 10, as far as the provincial government is concerned, but would it be appropriate or would it be possible for the proponent to sit down with a committee, and I might suggest if we wanted a formal committee, the Environmental Sustainability Committee, and work through some of the elements that we have concerns about in terms of streetscapes and the importance of the streetscapes and those types of things. And there are mitigation methods that we could maybe suggest to the proponent that would help along with the planning process.
Okay, Monsieur Bourgon, are there any tools for the municipality to kind of require that? And you can come back to us on that.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for council
Yeah,
tonight.
we'll have to follow up on that, but if there are tools that are available, I would certainly like to hear them as well. I don't know of any of them myself either, other than wanting to encourage the proponent to make sure that they're building into a community that's welcoming them because they are caring about what they're doing and how they're doing it. But also being realistic that they're investors and so we have certain rules that have teeth and we use those where we can, so.
I just felt that because there was some flexibility provided to the proponent, that again, the proponent might consider.
Yeah, the only
suggestions.
challenge with that is that if it's not enforceable, then we can have all the great discussions and then at the end they do whatever they want to do anyway, so.
And, yes.
But if there is an opportunity, Monsieur Bourgon, we'll add that to our follow-up list and we'll see that at our next meeting.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your questions, Mr. Dyer. Any other questions?
I just have a
Questions for the sorry, your name for public record?
Julian Hunt,
Thanks, Julian.
Castor Street. I just wanted to clarify, you mentioned that the traffic study mentioned in that zoning bylaw change was done based on the maximum potential growth in that area based on the zoning. Is that the R1 zoning that property had at the beginning? Like
Monsieur Bourgon?
No, it's based on infield, so based on the size of property, how much we think could be at the ultimate. So it does include lots of contingency. So for what we include in that region, there's still lots of capacity in that roadway.
So is there a way for someone, when they're reviewing that, to understand what the infield max capacities were? For someone wanting to review that 2018
Yeah, it can be
study?
done. I mean, it's part of the study.
It's all detailed in
so
that
is it
study.
based on what the maximum zoning could be for that property?
So it's not zoning, it's maximum on infill.
Yeah, and based on the OP current at the time.
So what are the different types of zone allowed in that area?
Yeah, and like, since it's a collector, how much or what type of density could be established in that area?
In other words, it does assume, regardless of the zoning change, that assumption is still valid.
Yeah, exactly. And we're all, like, it's looking at the ultimate that we won't reach that capacity of that roadway with the type of density that's presented tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Just wanted to understand how that.
And
how
that
functioned.
document is available. I just went back to it a few months ago. It's on record, so it's
Thank
a
you.
400 pager if you want. It's good reading. Any other questions? Thank you. All right, so we're going to item 15, resolutions. So we are, we're not going to have to pull the resolution because it's in the 11C, because it was on the, done through the agenda process. So motion that council approve all recommendations listed on the agenda under item 11, noting that C has been removed for reports from departments and councils and committees. I need a mover and seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Councillor Lawrence, seconded by Councillor Deacon. Any final questions, comments before the vote on all the items but C? So I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Okay, now we'll go to item C. Does anyone want a break before this one? Yeah? So why don't we take a pause for the cause? Let's take 5 minutes, so we'll come back 32 past the hour. Thank you, everyone.
Just to move.
Are you using this platform to get signatures for something? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's fine. All right, let's move to 11C, that council receives report. First of all, I'd like to propose, no, I can't propose it. Someone needs to propose it. Yeah. Councillor Deacon?
Yeah, I'd like to motion to suspend the rules of procedure that following our discussion, we permit a second public question and answer period.
That's seconded by Councillor Lauren. Call for the vote on the suspension of rules of procedure. All in favor and passed. Thank you. All right, so the council, 11C, the council receives report PIC 2026-06A dated March 23rd, 2026, and approve the proposed amendment to bylaw 2016-052 to modify sections 7 and 8 as per option C of the report. So this is a separated item. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to recognize and thank Councillor Armstrong for sharing your position paper on this item. Thank you to staff to try to find the most workable solution to be the most, I don't know if I can say most, minimally impairing solution based on our previous discussions and the court decision. Before I hand over the floor for additional comments and discussions on this item, I just have a couple of clarifications to ask for Madame Bourdeau.
Mr. Mayor, do we want to put the motion on the table now before we discuss it?
Did we not?
No, we had a mover to suspend the rules.
Oh, I
and
got carried
you were
away.
the seconder, right?
I got so excited.
You did the motion. but-
Okay, so I did the motion, so
Yes.
moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. It is on the table. And now I'll go back to my notes. So questions for you, Madame Bourdeau, before I give it to you for additional comments. So there are three options presented by staff. Option A, when candidates are certified by the clerk's office as per direction received by council. So that would be August 24th. Option B is when candidates file their nomination papers that's the believed intent of the amendment, which would be May 1st. That's option B. Option C is nomination day as recommended originally by administration based on legal opinion and what is deemed reasonable, which would be August 21st, 2026. And in this, I just want to make sure that I understand correctly, we are only discussing signage on public property. Is that correct, Madame Bourdeau?
For the first part, yes.
Okay, pardon me?
What does that mean for the first part?
Madame Bourdeau?
Well, if you look on the back of the report, there's item number 2. And this one was to remove the proposed amendment that I had proposed initially, which was to add the wording erected on public property.
So it's still part of that discussion?
It's still part of this
Yeah.
report, but it's part 2 of the report, which the removal of election signs.
Oh, the
That's-
removal
yeah,
after 10
the
days?
election, yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. Okay. So, Madame Bourdeau, comments as we move forward. It's my understanding that we got legal opinion, and I would like to see, are you able to talk at all on our minimally impairing piece as well, as you kind of speak to that beforehand, without putting you on the spot?
Well, the legal opinion was based on the fact that the nomination day was, it's a set date. So the 2 other options are not set dates. They can vary. And so this is one of the reasoning why this date was proposed as the preferred date, since it's a date that the people running will be aware of, and it cannot be changed, basically. So for the other part of your question in the minimally impairing, I guess the election signs on public property until the close of nomination is a minimally impairing approach because it ensures that all the candidates have equal access to a share in limited public space. So the restriction in narrowing it applies only to the timing and only on public property, while leaving expression on private property fully available. By starting at the close of nomination, we ensure that the rules apply equally to all candidates rather than giving an advantage of the best locations to those who can act earlier. So this way, the date is set and everybody has the same amount of time and availability of public properties.
OK, merci. Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter là-dessus, Madame Bourdeau?
I think that's it for now.
Merci beaucoup. On apprécie les changements et tout le travail qui a été fait jusqu'à date. Alors, j'ouvre la table. Councillor Lauren.
I have a few, if that's okay.
Yeah.
First one is to staff, and I don't know if it's going to be Monsieur Godin or Madame Bourdeau that's going to answer this. So today, as drafted with no amendments to the bylaw, when can somebody put up a sign on public property, and when can somebody put up a sign on private property
Madame Bourdeau.
for this upcoming election?
So without any changes?
Without
to the
any
current
changes to the
bylaw.
bylaw?
30 days prior.
For both public and private.
So September 26, 2026 would be the start date of that for the regular election. And for a by-election, I'm assuming the same 30-day time frame window is in place in the current bylaw?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so let's assume that that's the case. So that's today. Under the proposed changes, if I read them correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, somebody can put up a sign, instead of being September 26 on public, they can put it up on August 21st.
Yes.
On private, not September 26, but they can put it up as of May 1st. Is that my understanding of the way the proposed bylaw is drafted?
There's
Madame
not
Bourdeau.
There's not really, if I understand it correctly, there's no restrictions on private property,
So they can put one up today. Is that what you're saying?
basically.
Okay, so that's perfect, because that's where I wanted to ask you. So any sign that goes up on a lawn today, right? We actually, on private property, and I'm talking only private, we, according to the bylaw, restrict signs on properties, correct?
You mean non-election sign?
Correct.
Madame
Yes.
Bourdeau.
Yes, it's called an affiliation sign, right? And that's restricted to
Any sign.
any sign, but in this circumstance, I would consider it, if somebody were to put up a sign that says, I love rock and roll, or whatever it is, or the signs that we put up for the smoke detectors, or, you know,
Yes.
I'll
Stand our ground.
throw stand our ground in the middle, in the mixed. Those are all considered affiliation signs. And we restrict those signs to a maximum of 30 days. Yet our election signs, we have a separate category, and we actually give them now, based on the proposal, 60 days plus, right? Because you could put it up on August 21st till October 26th. Why would we allow signs on private property then at any point for all duration of time when we already restrict affiliation signs?
Election
That's my-
signs, you're referring to.
Correct.
Election signs. Madame Bourdeau.
Well, those were the recommendations from our legal advisor after the justice's
Yeah.
hearing.
So if, and I'll give it to you in a second, Councillor Armstrong. So I think that the ruling for the judge, it was very specific of protecting the right of residents on their private properties for representation of those election signs. But we do limit other signs on 30 days. Go ahead, Councillor Lauren.
So if that's the case, then the bylaw needs to be redrafted because 1.2.3 clearly states that that this bylaw is for all private and public properties. So if we're saying now that we're not restricting election signs, and in fact, we're not restricting any signs right now on private properties, why do we even have it in the bylaw? So I can't reasonably approve a bylaw if you're telling me that private citizens can put a sign up any point in time for anything and there's no restrictions, because that would be what an election sign would be.
Madame Bordeaux, 1.2.3, the purpose of 1.2.3, go ahead.
It's to what this bylaw applies to, but it's not a individual section. So individual sections apply to different.
They supersede that. That 1.2.3, if I understand correctly, simply sets the context that this bylaw addresses private, public, different types of signs. And then within the bylaw are the different types of signs that have rules that apply to that. It just says that the township is allowed to make a bylaw pertaining to those signs.
Exactly.
Okay. So
Sorry.
another follow-up?
Yeah, follow-up. So 1.2.3 states, all signs and advertising devices located on public and private property within the geographic boundaries of the Township of Russell are subject to the provisions of this bylaw.
Under the title 1.2 of scope, which means that this is the scope of that bylaw.
Right.
That it addresses all those signs.
On public and private.
That's correct.
So if we're not restricting on private, then why are we talking about private in here? I agree we should. I absolutely agree we should. But because it states it, I have a problem with that then.
Thank you, Councillor. But for the record, we do have rules around private property signs, around size, around where they're located and so on. So that provision needs to be there because the bylaw addresses those rules. So around the size of the sign and around where they're located, because in some cases, even on private property, the township has rules on those signs.
Except for timing now. So we have no rules on timing and how long a sign can be put on a lawn.
Yeah, but 1.2.3 speaks to the scope that allows us to make rules on private property, and regardless of timing or not, but I'm just pointing out to the 1.2.3. Madame Bordeaux?
And for example, home businesses, they have signs on private property, but we regulate the signs. So the location, the size.
So in order to regulate the time that an election sign, because 7.1.1 deals specifically with election signs, we would have to then either scratch out public from 7.1.1 AI2, or sorry, AI1, which is where it states it, or we would have to specify as 7.1.1A2 or 3 or 4, whatever number you want to put it, and say all signs on private property can only be put up as of the nomination day. Right? Because right now, as drafted, as was just said, people can put up an election sign at any point in time on their own private property for as long as they want. And I find that absolutely and utterly disappointing that we would have to put that way.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Armstrong.
Okay, first, to Councillor Lawrence's first question, what does the bylaw say now? The 30 days is of no force or effect. The Constitution is clear. Once something that is inconsistent with the Constitution is of no force or effect. So all of those 7, 8 provisions found in the decision, they're today of no force or effect. They never were of any force or effect. So if we were going to produce a proper office consolidation of the bylaw today, we would just have to say to whatever that provision is, of no force or effect, and refer to the decision. That's how we would provide it. The next thing that I see, the minimal impairment is a big issue, and again, the court took issue with real estate signs, real estate direction signs, for example. There are dozens out there right now. I was driving through the township just today and found dozens of them. They have a restriction from the time somebody has an agreement to sell a piece of property until 30 days after. So they can be on public property, and the only restriction I think we have on them is actual size. They can't be over a certain size. Why not an election sign? The other question is fairness. Fairness in election campaigning is not one of the objectives or the intent of our sign bylaw. If we try to use fairness in campaigning, then we've gone beyond the intent of the bylaw. Okay? The next thing, I believe the best thing we can do right now is remember that when a sign is up on a street corner, there's no difference from the point of view of the intent and the scope of the bylaw between one that says vote and another that says house for sale this way. If we restrict one, we've got to restrict them all. And that's part of the minimal impairment and proportionality questions that the judge found our bylaw currently doesn't conform to, and under this rules still would not conform to.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Councillor Deakin.
I believe I raised this at the last meeting, so I'll try to keep it brief. I am pleased to see that the addition of the requirement to remove the sign within 10 days following the election. I believe that the last time we looked at that wasn't included. I go back, though, because this actually points to the issue of the anytime, any private property rule for election signs, is that an election is a publicly administered process, and we all have a duty to try and raise civic awareness and understanding about elections when they're taking place. In my view, I would put forward an amendment on 7.1.1, A1, to remove on public property and and simply have that read registered third-party sign prior to, et cetera, because as Councillor Lorrain pointed out, I could put a vote for Pedro sign on my lawn today. Maybe I could get 10 or 15 of my friends to do the same thing. And all of a sudden we have folks in our community confused about when the municipal election is. And I do see that as exceptional and different from the example of a private for sale sign on a private property. That this is a public process, and one that communication needs to be very clear on. And so for it to happen any time, and just logistically, pragmatically, it contradicts the requirement to remove it 10 days after the election, because you can put it up any time, so why would you need to remove it at any time? You could take it down 10 days after and put it up 11 days after again.
Just a correction, I think the 10 days is referring to public signs, which we are recommending.
But the logic that I'm using again is that I do take that the township's argument in the court case was pointing to other municipalities and what they do, rather than providing actual rationale for why that's why a certain restriction needs to be put on election signs. And I want to say very clearly that I find that specific restriction around timing of election signs to be a very strong rationale to regulate them differently from other signage on private property.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Councillor Lalonde.
Yeah, I want to support what Councillor Deakin just mentioned. I subscribe to that same view. This is a public process, and you know, we have rights and freedoms that and all of those things, and I appreciate that. But there's, you know, lawyers will talk about what is the right and reasonable thing to do when they're looking at law. That's the approach they normally take, is what would be the right and reasonable thing to do here. And to put up an election sign from the moment you know, nominations are accepted in May, and to keep that up, the sign up for 6 months and maybe beyond on private property or what have you, it's unreasonable. It's also misleading, as Councillor Deacon pointed out. You put a sign up in May, most people are used to elections taking place or seeing those signs in the ground some 3 to 4 to 6 to 8 weeks later. But to think that they'll be there, you know, while the grass is starting to grow and the flowers haven't come up yet, and then to be there all through the summer and into the fall for it to me, it's unreasonable. It's impractical. And, you know, we talk about the character, you know, of our township, the look and feel, the rest of it. I mean, being bombarded with what amounts to visual pollution, you know, no disrespect intended to the person's name on the sign, but is this what we want? Do we want to blast signs all over the township for a period of 6 months to have to look at that stuff? So I fully subscribe to that view, and it's too bad we can't throw it on an election, a voting platform, tie it on for voters to pronounce themselves on, or maybe we do that in the fall. But this is a public process, and it's not a house for sale down the street issue. To tie those two things together, I think is an inappropriate analogy to draw here. Thank you.
Thank you. And just, I'll give you the floor in a second. Just again, Madame Bourdeau, I just want to confirm that our lawyer's opinion, and this is a different lawyer than one that argued the case, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and this lawyer has experience in this field, including freedom of expression.
They have represented some cases in this field. Yes.
In that field, okay. And again, their recommendation is to their argument, or certainly the way you presented it earlier on, was the minimal impairment piece on public was to have a date so that everyone has a fair starting for the best locations, because it is a limited resource in terms of the best spaces. And that private property should not be limited, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so again, that's the recommendation from staff. We've kind of gone around. I'll give another round, and then we can see if there are amendments, voting, and so on. And I would also be interested in seeing if there is an appetite for voting, maybe, and I'm not sure if I can, Madame Kémé-Laflamme, but have 2 votes, you know, in terms of the public side versus the private side. I'm not sure, is that possible to split that or to amend that so that we can move ahead in one? And is that possible?
Mr. Mayor, from what I'm seeing, I think you're mentioning 2 different amendments to the main motion.
Ouais, c'est ça.
So that would be.
That's possible. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. We'll see where council goes, but I have Councillor Armstrong and then Councillor Laurie.
Yeah, again, it comes down to, I was at the corner of Equinox and Notre Dame this morning, and it said house for sale this way.
No, I think you
And
made your
it's
point
there.
on that. Yeah.
Okay, and what is the difference in the pollution of that sign and one that says vote in October? Who will put it up, I don't know, but it's not for us in council to restrict the way the campaign is run. It is the province's restrictions in their Municipal Elections Act to restrict those things. And they have put a lot of restrictions on candidates.
Thanks.
So how do we do that and justify that as minimal impairment and proportional?
Thank you. Councillor Laurie?
So that brings up a good point. Under the Municipal Act and the Municipal Elections Act, what is the stance in those two acts regarding election signs? Did we get a legal opinion on that? What is listed there? Because like Councillor Armstrong just said, they are the governing body for this. So have we used their information in our bylaw? And if so, what is it?
I think the Municipal Act speaks to the municipality making the decisions around that, correct?
It doesn't state anything specific.
Yeah, I think
It's broad.
they're pretty mute on anything outside of, it's up to the municipality to make that decision.
Okay, so another part that I have is, just a point of clarification for Councillor Lalonde. Nowhere in the current bylaw that were the proposed bylaw does the date May 1st come into play for for private. It's anytime. Like tomorrow, you could put up your
It's just
election
not-
sign
that's
if
correct.
this were to pass tonight. So the restriction or the amendment, I believe Councillor Deacon is proposing, is by striking out the word public from that section, it would mean signs on public and private could only go up as of August 21st, nomination day. Is that my understanding, Councillor Deacon?
Councillor Deacon?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Because I would second that motion. And the reason I would second that motion is I've spoken to many people in our community, and not a single person that I've spoken to has said, absolutely, I think it makes sense to have signs up as of May 1st even, which is the date you can put your name in for a campaign, let alone putting them up tomorrow, right? So I find it very difficult to vote in favor of something when we sit back and let's look at whether or not the province decides to change their timing of their elections. And now you've got municipal election signs with provincial election signs, and God forbid that something happens with the federal government and they throw in an election around the same time. Signs are going to be all over the place, and you can't restrict them because you've just said in your bylaw there's no restrictions.
Thank you.
So we have to restrict them in one way, shape, or form from a timing perspective. We restrict real estate signs from a timing perspective. We restrict affiliation signs from a timing perspective. Why is that any different for our election signs? And therefore, I will only vote in favor of them going up on public and private as of the nomination day.
Thank you. Just another point of clarification, Madame Bordeaux. In terms of the ruling against the township by the judge, the piece on private property, like the lawyer right now is recommending to not have it on there based on the ruling, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a judge that made a ruling on this against the township. And so I'm just stating that. Councillor Deacon.
I'd like to ask if it is worthwhile to, well, I understand that this is based on the ruling. Let me reframe my question. Between the last council meeting and this council meeting, was the question of public versus private property brought to the same lawyer to take a second look at with the understanding and the lens of the rationale for why private should be restricted as I brought forward? Or maybe that would be a question that I would like to make sure that a lawyer looks at and considers. I understand that the lawyer is going by the ruling, but there is interpretation about the application of that ruling to this bylaw. And that's what we're grappling with, both tonight and a couple of weeks ago as well. I think we all want to get this right as we can. And so if I do, of course, appreciate the expertise that the lawyers are bringing to this, I'd like to understand if the lawyer was brought in between this meeting and the last, and if not, perhaps that is the next step for me, is to understand if they looked at that question of rationale, which was not proven by the municipality as per the judge's ruling, based on the evidence that was presented. Would the lawyer see the rationale as it's being discussed here at this table for restrictions on the private signs during regarding elections specifically?
Thank you, Councillor. Madame Bordeaux?
Yes, we did have discussion CAO and myself with the legal advisor, and they were given all the information that came out of last meeting. And I guess they're, the same advice came out, and there's a few minor changes, but nothing spectacular. And yes, so that they have to go with what the decision is. So there's a lot that people can argue here, but we have to live with that decision. So, and I just want to point out again that there are rules for real estate signs. There are size limits. There's one directional sign per property for sale. There's one sign on the property. So it's not like election signs where you have no size limit, where you have 20 signs on the same street. It's not the same at all. It's not even comparable. So my opinion is that this came out as the decision of the judge, but it was not considered during the arguments. It was not an argument. It was brought in at the end during the ruling, and it was not defended in any way. So I don't think this is an appropriate comparison.
Thank you. Councillor Lauren.
Yeah, I mean, we point to, the fact that there's been a decision by a justice or a decision, whatever you want to call it. That doesn't mean that everyone agrees with that decision and whether or not everything in it is correct. And the fact is, when you look at the decision, it talks to by-election for the most part, not necessarily a regular election. So you get another judge that might feel differently about the regular election process and the remarks of the previous justice. So the fact that we've got the decision, great. I disagree with some of the remarks in the decision. And therefore, I'm a representative of the public. And the public, so far, has told me that they do not want signs up for that period of time. So I do have, Mr. Mayor, the one amendment I'm going to propose right now, and it has nothing to do with the timing or anything like that, but it's something that in reviewing this deeper, I found section 7.1.1A8, so VIII, which requires a candidate or a third party to have their name, telephone number, address, or email address on the back of a sign. I don't think that's ever been enforced. I don't think that's ever been used. I've never had a single sign with my name, phone number, and email address or address on the signs. And most signs are front and back have the same thing on them. So I don't know how you would distinguish front and back from a sign. So I would suggest that we amend that to remove that, the word candidate from there maybe. It should be the word candidate. If it's a third-party sign, then that may be a one-sided sign and they need the back information. But in terms of a candidate sign being put up, I don't see that being reasonable, because if I put up my sign that says vote Jamie Lauren, the clerk knows where Jamie Lauren is. All his contact information is on file and on record with the clerk. So I said court. I think I said court, but I meant clerk. So I'm going to propose, I'll move a motion to remove the word candidate from 7.1.1 AV 111.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder for that particular amendment? Seconded by Councillor Deakin. Questions, comments on the amendment? Call for the vote for that particular amendment. All in favor? Opposed? And passed. Okay, let's get back to the, thank you, Councillor. Okay, so we've had some good discussion on this so far. So we're at the stage here where we have a recommendation from staff to move to select, c'était C, right? Right. So we have C on there. So any final comments or proposed amendments? Councillor Lauren?
I'll propose the amendment to remove the word public from 7.1 7.1.1 AI, is it?
Can we maybe put it
AI.
up? Are we able to put it up on the screen?
On public property. So, yeah, so we're right there at the top where it says on public property, to strike that out of that section. And therefore, my understanding of that is that it would then ensure that all signs would have to meet the nomination day timing under 7.1.1 I2. Correct?
Madame Bourdeau, si on enlève le mot public,
Or on public property from that section.
si on enlève, yeah, if we remove from public, that means that we are not allowing any signs on,
Private or public until nomination day. Okay,
is
and
that,
that's my proposed amendment.
so I have an
and I'll move
amendment
it.
on the table. Do I have a seconder on that amendment? Seconded by Councillor Deacon. Questions, comments on the amendment?
Yes. One more comment. This brings us
Go ahead,
back,
Councillor.
this brings us back to what it was previously to changing it to the 30-day time frame, which is why I'm proposing that we make that change and bring it back to what it was for years and years and years, elections past, so.
Thank you. Additional comments, Councillor Deacon?
I just want to be clear that I'm in seconding the amendment to remove on public property. I have no comment on the remainder of that section, A1, 2, for example. I am in support. The amendment is specifically to remove on public property, and I
Yes.
second that motion.
So with the understanding of what it implies, correct?
That
Like, that's
it,
your- that- I
that
just wanna
anything
clarify.
below that, therefore, but I mean, we haven't voted on the main motion, so I'm not commenting
Yeah.
on the remaining language of that section.
Thank you. Any other comments on this amendment? Councillor Armstrong? No? Okay, I'll call for the vote on the amendment as presented. All in favor? Opposed? And passed. On continue. And now, any final comments, or we just go to the vote on the amended final motion?
Before public questions, right?
Oh, that's correct. Yeah. So we'll do questions before. C'est ça, Madame Camille-Laflamme?
If that's council's wish,
We had
to
done
have
that.
it before the vote.
Yeah. Are there any other amendments before the main motion that we pass? Any other amendments? Seeing none, so we'll open it for questions, if there are questions. Mr. Baker?
So my question is,
Just for the public record, because people might be
Harry
listening.
Baker,
Thank you,
still living at 208 Forest Road.
thank you.
Beautiful tree-lined street so far. So who are a what is a registered third-party sign?
Thank you. Madame Camille Laflamme, est-ce que vous pouvez répondre ça ou qui peut répondre ça? Oh, Madame Bourdeau, oui, OK. It's in there? I think, yeah, the definition's in the bylaw. Councillor Deacon's offering to read it. I appreciate that, Councillor Deacon.
Registered third party means in relation to an election in a municipality, an individual, corporation, or trade union that is registered under Section 88.6 of the Municipal Elections Act, 1996, amended 2018-001.
Thank you, Councillor.
That
So
doesn't-
I'm concerned about third-party signs, Stand Our Ground. You know I'm associated with Stand Our Ground. So is it only during election time that we would be restricted as to when we could expose our signs to the public?
So, no. So, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a definition for affiliation signs.
Yeah.
Affiliation signs your organization qualifies for an affiliation sign, a group of people coming together with an idea.
Yeah.
If you change the sign from Stand Our Ground to vote for
Yeah.
Joe Schmo, to
Then-
Stand Our Ground, that's a different story.
Okay, so at the moment, stand our ground signs are not an issue
They're an affiliation
during an
sign.
election period.
That's my understanding.
I mean,
Councillor
I-
Lauren?
I-
Just a sec, Councillor Lauren?
Okay,
I would agree that they do not conflict because one's an election sign and one's what's called an affiliation sign. But those affiliation signs under the bylaw are restricted
To
And
30
it-
days.
to 30 days if somebody were to complain. Obviously, nobody has complained about the sign because they've been up for the better part of, what, 2 years? On people's properties and whatnot,
Private properties.
on private properties.
yeah,
So,
only on private property.
That's correct.
right, but they are restricted according to the bylaw.
So now, because there is could be restricted under the bylaw, it just requires somebody to complain to make it difficult for us.
That's already in existence, and,
Yeah.
and it's for 30 days. And Madame Bordeaux, correct me if I'm wrong, for using this specific example of Stand Our Ground, if I complain, because I don't want to see that sign, and it's been there for 31 days, bylaw can come and ask them to remove it, but then they could put it back 5 days later for another 30 days, correct?
Yes, it doesn't require complaining. It's been a wish of council, and I'm not saying this council, but it's been a wish of council when there's affiliation signs, that we tolerate them. So that's a position we've been taking, and they're allowed for 30 days. So what it says is that it's a maximum of 0.5 of a square meter, and it can be displayed not more than 30 days.
So are things going to change now? That's.
We're
I
not
guess that's my
addressing this
question.
at all. This is only for the election signs, and that Stand Our Ground sign is not an election sign, per
Okay,
se.
although some people believe it's an election issue.
Well, it
It's
may be
not.
an issue, but it's
Yeah.
not a vote for this person.
Okay.
Stand your ground by voting for this person will be an election sign.
Okay.
Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, just to be clear, in the Municipal Elections Act, a third-party advertisement means an advertisement in any broadcast, print, electronic, or other medium, signs, that has the purpose of promoting, supporting, or opposing A, a candidate,
Specific candidate.
or B, yes or no answer to a question
If there is
if there's a
question.
referendum. Okay, so if it is limited to an issue, as we have in our bylaw, the things we have to remember is issues have more than one side. And you have Stand Our Ground looking against urban sprawl, but there have developers out there that have that develop and they want to promote their developments. That means that if we start looking at on issues, for example, Stand Our Ground, if somebody complains, then you'll have to also take action against the other side of that same issue.
I think Madame Bordeaux did clearly say that the complaints are not specific to the affiliation signs, but also there are commercial signs versus affiliation signs are not the same thing.
But in an election campaign, because we're talking about
But
working in the election
But
campaign.
our sign bylaw explains the difference between the different types of signs, and some of them have specific requirements, i.e. the election signs. Others have other specifics. So a commercial sign versus a affiliation sign are not treated the same way in that bylaw. Madame Bordeaux, correct me if I'm wrong.
They're not considered the same.
That's correct. So they're not the same at all. If a developer wanted to promote urban sprawl, going against the issue directly, for example, of Stand Our Ground, and say, follow our ground or whatever, that would be, but they're not going to be promoting a specific development in that case. They're going to be promoting that issue.
I
ahead,
put to you,
Councillor.
I put to you, Mr. Mayor, that an issue is far broader than that. And some of these commercial signs that our developers put up are standing immediately opposed to the stand our ground issue and would still be during an election campaign.
I think we would have to get a legal opinion on that, but
I
you-
have
you've
another
got.
question.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Do you think that limiting the amount of time that election signs are allowed to be put up makes it what I'm trying to say is that people who are already incumbent in the positions, like you guys up there, people know that you're a councillor, you're a mayor, they know that you're there. But someone who's unknown, there's some people in this room probably who would like to run this time. They're unknown. They want to be known. Their inability to put a sign up, but it has to be at the same time as you guys who are already known. Is that not being unfair to them?
So at 30 days, there is an argument for that because I lived it in 2018.
Yeah.
Still managed to get elected, but I think when you give it to the date, in this case of May 12th, when everyone is there, it's just giving everyone a level playing field that they all start at the same time. I think that's the point that was made. Councillor Lauren, then Councillor Armstrong.
Just to clarify, you said May 12th, but August 21st
Yeah, sorry is what I meant.
is the
yes.
date. And that was always the time frame. Everyone had the exact same time frame, whether you were a new candidate or a incumbent. Everyone had the same time frame that they can put up their signs out in the public, on the public streets or on private properties. That does not stop a candidate from the day that they put their name in to start advertising in papers, start sending out flyers, start walking the streets. They can do all of that the minute they put their name in, right? They can start soliciting funds for donations and open up their bank account. Nothing is stopping a candidate from doing that from the beginning. But allowing a candidate on May 1st to put their sign up, and you have a candidate that may have to wait for whatever reason and put their name in on August 21st, I would argue they are disadvantaged because that person was able to put their name in on May 1st, and they, for lots of reasons, and I can give you a perfect example of when I won't right now, because it did happen to me in the by-election for mayor, I had to wait until a certain time because I needed approvals to be able to do it from work. So similarly, somebody else may have that same requirement, and they're disadvantaged by not being able to put their signs up for that time period on private properties. So anyway, that would be my comment on that. Everyone has the same time frame, so I don't think anyone is being disadvantaged. And I agree, in the old one, 30 days was restricting, and I dare to say that I did vote against that, or I did comment about it. Don't hold me to it. I'm pretty sure I did. I can't remember, but I think I argued that, no, that 30 days was not a proper time frame, that it should be nomination day, but
Thank you.
anyway.
Councillor Deacon.
As elected representatives, we are under additional rules in terms of the ways that we communicate while we are serving in this position. We are not allowed to talk about campaigning as part of our day-to-day communication. So I remember back when I was in Ottawa, I think it was the 2018 election. Yeah, no, the one before that, 2014 election. And I had a gentleman come up my step in the month of March or April, and I was really taken aback. I was really surprised to see him there campaigning. He was able, as a non-incumbent, to start knocking on doors, handing out flyers. He had his purple T-shirt, I remember, and that was not something that the actual councillors serving in that ward would have been permitted to do. So just to add that, I'm not going to pretend that there isn't an incumbent advantage. Hopefully, we are active in the community, serving our community, demonstrating value to the community in the roles that we serve. If folks around this table choose to present themselves again, that demonstration of value to the public may come into play in whether they're ultimately reelected or not. But just to say that there is a layer that we face that those not serving in this position do not face, and that is to make it very clear the way that we use our time, which is public time, taxpayer money, the way that I use my day in and day out, is not to go towards me trying to get elected again. That's a very strict rule that, again, does not apply to people who aren't currently in these seats.
Good point, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah. Fairness and time. Every candidate or potential candidate is subject to the 1st of May rule through to nomination day. If you have personal circumstances that are not related to actual campaigning, that you choose or whatever to put your name in at some other date, that's your personal circumstances, and you arrange your campaign around it. As the courts have said, that the question here is election signs. And you cannot use the fact that somebody can use other means to communicate as justification to restrict their means from election signs. That's just not there. And as the court also mentioned, from a visual pollution point of view, you know, do we do things like restrict the number of for sale signs on houses, on any street, et cetera, et cetera? The fact is, we let signs go out that are equally or more visually polluting than an election sign. We allow it on public property. And the court will not, I believe, accommodate any restriction on the public or private properties just because you think that an election signs are more visually polluting than others.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Baker. Any other questions on this item? Seeing none, we've got an amended resolution in front of us. Madame Camille Laflamme, are you able to put it up, or are we able to put it up, or do we need to put it up?
No, just as amended.
As amended? Everyone comfortable with that? Okay, so I will call for the vote of...
Recorded vote. Recorded vote, please.
Thank you. So call for the vote, recorded vote in favor of the amended resolution, which puts the date of nomination day for all signs, including private and public signs, correct?
One clarification, because you said to vote for approving. No, it's each member will, because it's a recorded vote now.
Vote, yeah.
You don't say all approved, right?
Fair enough. So I will start with Councillor Armstrong.
No.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Lauren?
Yes.
Councillor Deacon?
Yes.
Councillor Lalonde?
Yes.
And I will vote against it. Thank you. So it passes, and it passes at the August 21st date. No signs until August 21st, either public or private property. Correct, Madame Camille Laflamme?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. All right, moving forward. We are going to bylaws. Motion that council approve bylaws 2026-027 and 2026-032 and 2026-036 inclusively for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda. This is moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Deacon. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Hold on.
What?
We have to remove item, the first one.
2026-027.
Yes.
Okay, we'll separate that one. So again, I'll reread it. Motion that council approves bylaw 2026-032 to 2026-036 inclusively for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda. And that's moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Deacon. Call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Motion that council approved bylaw 2026-027 for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda, so as amended on the agenda. Call for the vote.
Another recorded vote, please.
Call for the vote. All in favor?
No, he does for a recorded
Yeah,
vote.
recorded, sorry.
Sorry, who was the mover for 027?
So, yeah.
27? Yeah.
No, I'm not moving it.
So moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Deacon. We're asking for a recorded vote as amended. Councillor Armstrong?
No.
Sorry, it's not amended. The bylaw is not amended, right? The resolution was amended. The bylaw is not
The bylaw is
amended.
still the same.
The bylaw will remain the same because it will be updated based on the amendments of the resolution, correct?
That's correct. Madame Camille-Laflamme?
Yes, so it's as per the direction as at item 11C.
Yeah.
Right, so
okay.
maybe just say as per item 11C.
Yeah, as per item 11C.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear on it.
No, that's fair, I appreciate that. All right, so Councillor Armstrong,
No.
Councillor Lauren,
Yes.
Councillor Deacon,
Yes.
Councillor Lalonde,
Yes.
myself, no. And passed. All right. Moving to item 17, new business reports, we have none. Item 18, other business presented by council members. So 18A, Councillor Lauren, new proposed rules for alcohol consumption at community events by the province. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask staff to bring a report within the next few meetings, maybe in a month, just outlining what the province is proposing. I know they tabled it today at Queen's Park. So, and whether they passed, I don't remember if they passed it or not, but I know they tabled it. So I just like to understand it more, things about, permits, and I heard it's some sort of a different permit process that will be done for those, and then how that would work in municipalities, like, for example, on Canada Day, when you've got an organization that would request a permit to sell, and then you have somebody that may request to go and do something there and bring their own. Now you got people showing up with coolers, and where's the liability factor? I need to understand that, and what role municipalities have in rejecting applications or requests. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Councillor. And just so you know, so from me sitting on the Eastern Ontario Health Board, Dr. Paul was actually summoned to Toronto, I think this Tuesday, and I do believe that is being discussed. And it was discussed at our board meeting, and so any news that comes from that, I will transfer that as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments on that, Madame Bordeaux?
I did speak with the AGCO representative in this field, and Madame Guittard was present on that telephone conversation. And basically, the responsibility that the municipality has for these bring your own booze kind of permit is the same as an SOP, where you have to declare an event, a cultural or community event. So the council would have to declare this. And it would apply to any activity, be it on township property or be it like at the fair, for example. So my personal opinion is that most events will not want to do this, as I believe their funding comes from the bar sales, and having bring your own booze is going to be it's going to cut into their profits, but the applicant is the person responsible for ensuring that they have security, they have somebody monitoring if people drink too much or if, so that their liability falls back on
Increases.
the.
But Madame Bordeaux, are you saying that, when you were first explaining it, are you saying that it would still come back to this council to decide if that event meets the requirements to allow bring your own?
It has to be designated a community or cultural event.
Who makes that final determination?
It has to be a resolution of council, the same as the NSOP application.
Like we
Okay.
just did.
Okay. All right, Councillor Lauren, follow
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it comes out as in a clear communication plan for our residents as well. Because what I'm afraid will happen is people won't read the fact that they need a permit, and you'll see a bunch of people showing up to soccer games and baseball games with youth, more youth I'm talking, with coolers and whatnot, saying, well, no, the province said we can now drink wherever we want and bring our own and all that stuff. So I just want to make sure that it goes out from a clear communication perspective once it does go through.
That's fair. Madame Bordeaux, c'est bon, oui.
Yes, hopefully the province does
Will provide us that, yeah.
does good communication, but yes, we can
Okay,
ensure that it does.
thank you. Councillor Armstrong, 18B, Earth Day.
Yes, Earth Day is, I think it's the 22nd of April, but we have a trail cleanup. The Environmental Committee has a trail cleanup planned on the Saturday, the 25th, and we're inviting council members to participate. The details we'll sort out in the next couple of weeks with Jonathan Bourgon and his team. They'll provide the usual gloves, garbage bags, and some posts where you can stay and or so you can work from, and we'll have that for everybody. We need the mayor and his high boots.
I'll be there as long as Timbits are there with me.
Well, now maybe we can arrange something. Okay.
Perfect. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Do I have the next one too?
Yeah, so moving on to 18C, Township Newsletter.
Yeah, the township newspaper, the township newsletter. Wish we had a township newspaper. The township newsletter had the little mention of converting agricultural property, actually the severing of the residential portion of an ag property for sale. I'm just wondering if the township will have in a subsequent newsletter the conversion of land into the urban policy area, because that's what I get people asking me about. How is it that field over there is now being
Sure.
it's now being urbanized as opposed to just severing out an existing residence?
So, Monsieur Godin, does that make sense in terms of that piece for our next newsletter? And so, I know I did receive a question from a resident and responded that was outside of urban boundaries, or sorry, that was part of the urban boundary, adjusted urban boundary, and that's why, sorry, the expansion, but it's within the village boundary, sorry, is what I was looking for. And so that's why we were allowed, or through the proper planning process, the proponent was allowed to develop on this ag land. And whereas the article in the newsletter specifically speaks of outside the village boundaries, so maybe have that presentation. Does that make sense, Monsieur Godin?
Merci, Monsieur Maire. Bonsoir, Chef du Conseil. We can definitely look at how to properly communicate that, either through the newsletter or other means of communication. I think with the adoption of the official plan hopefully coming soon, it might be a good opportunity to release something on that,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
would include maybe education around how that works.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Okay, excellent, thank you. Any other, that's it, I think, for that. We move to item 19, public consultations, hearings. We have none. Item 20, announcements. So I've got a few. On March 12th, I attended the South Nation Conservation AGM. There is obviously quite a bit of unknown with the South Nation Conservation Authority, with some of the changes coming at the province level, but it was a very positive AGM. We did have a meeting, the CEO and myself, with Alto. Although the corridor is not planned to go through our township, we did have some discussions with them. And at the county level, just so you know, there is a push by the warden to make sure that we have a unified county voice for the Alto piece. March 19th, as I mentioned, I attended the board health meeting, the Wendy's grand opening as well, which had a lot of very positive comments on the social medias. March 20th, I had the opportunity to attend with Ability Hive. We recognize Michael Smith here in the township office. It was a really nice opportunity for Michael, who has a little popcorn business, to be recognized for the great work that he does within the community. We had the opportunity of having Valoris, for who he works part-time as well. So it was a really great feel-good event with about 25, 30 people that were in attendance. On March 21st, with Councillor Deakin and Councillor Lalonde, as was mentioned, we went to trivia night, and I got to experience front row seats to an amazing concert, and I really enjoyed that. I wasn't too good on the questions, but other than that, that was good. Coming up tomorrow, on the 24th, we have a fraud prevention seminar here with the OPP in this particular room. Encourage everyone to attend. March 25th, Career Pathway Conversations with Russell High School students. March 26th, I sit on the Ontario Association of Police Service Board, so that will be my initial meeting there. March 29th until April 1st, I will be at Good Roads in Toronto. April 4th, I will be participating at the Tara Shannon concert in memory of Jonathan Pitt, and I believe in attendance will also be Councillor Deakin and Councillor Lalonde. Those are my announcements. Any other announcements? Nothing? All right. Okay, moving to item 21, strategic discussion, we have none. Item 22, closed session, we have none today. Item 23, confirming bylaw, that bylaw 2026. 037 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Russell at its regular council meeting held on March 23rd, 2026, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Mover, seconder, sorry. Moved by Councillor Deakin, seconded by Councillor Lauren. Call for the vote. All in favor and passed. Thank you. The next regular public meeting of council will be held on Monday, April 13th, 2026. We are adjourned at 8:39. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time and appreciate the discussions tonight.
Oh, I forgot Happy Easter.
Yeah, same. Thank you.
I just thought of that.
Yeah, that's true, eh?